The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
In Casablanca,
than Rabat. Ah, right.
True.
Yeah, but now
it's home to very, very nice golf courses.
Golf courses, right? So another thing that stands out is if you think about the artistry, we think about styles that you'd get from Morocco, their fabric as well, very beautiful designs, and their cuisine as well. So couscous is one that stands out. How did you like their couscous?
I have never been particularly fond of couscous, and I've tried it in many places.
Yeah.
But it is good, but I find much more interesting stuff there also than the couscous.
We can just say it. It's not really that good.
But they do very nice
tagine with other meats.
No, the cured
meat.
That is done in a pit in the ground.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Yes.
Now let's go to the proverb. I pointed out to the stars, and all you saw was the tip of my fingers. I pointed out to you the stars, and all you saw was the tip of my fingers. How would you interpret it?
Well, in a way, I think to me it's the vastness of space. And that you are like the top of a pin from far looking out at the stars. And even more miniature when stars look down at you, they can barely find you. That the immensity of space shows you how little you can be.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow.
We often think about ourselves as quite the flavor of the month, but in comparison to other things, we're actually quite small, aren't we?
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Maybe even unnoticeable.
Yeah,
if you look at it in the grand scheme of things.
You and doesn't even take note of your presence.
Ouch. How's that for a political lesson?
Yeah.
Interesting. So yesterday we were a bit confused, and I think that you coming today, though that was previously arranged, then worked very well in the scheme of things, because then we wanted to have an understanding, Mukhisa, of what exactly is going on, if it's necessary to have an understanding at this moment of if there's a presidential candidate of the United Opposition, what is the position of the United Opposition? Everybody says, I'm a presidential candidate, but I would give way to another. Can you see how we are
first
confused?
of all, a number of clarifications. I am not holding brief for any candidate in this conversation.
All right.
Even this idea of a spokesman for the United Opposition has pretty much been dysfunctional.
Okay.
That every party leader would rather issue statements for himself.
Okay.
After about 8 months of trying to establish a common secretariat for the opposition, I've basically given up.
Oh, really?
So don't ask me to speak for a non-existent secretariat. I know there is opposition. I know there is important positives in the sense that in spite of the very, very significantly competing egos, everybody is united in the desire that they should not be responsible for a second term for William Ruto. That's the most important takeaway. And there's also another thing, which that's the mood of the public is holding people's egos to ransom. And everybody who's desirous that he or she must be the one is very, very consciously struggling not to be seen as the spoiled kid or what comes. Beyond that, I think there are major challenges, and you get to see many of them in contradictory statements, failure to do any one thing at the same time, all people, and this kind of things. So those are their challenges.
Yeah.
There are challenges, but I remain fairly optimistic. Yeah.
Is it normal? Is it expected?
It's very normal.
It's expected at this time for this to be happening?
I was in the year of our Lord 2000, up to 2002, at the center of building a common ground and united opposition involving Wamalwa, Charity Ngilu, and Mwai Kibaki. While the candidates themselves, by and large, were very positive and wanting to engage, behind them were constituents who were very rapid in their obsession that it's my way or the highway. And it was also very difficult to tame the egos and the arrogance of some of the supporters of the candidates. So to me, what I see now is nothing particularly new. But particularly now, what's interesting is there's a much more widespread desire to send Ruto to Sugoi than there was to send Uhuru to Gatundu in 2002. So which is an important building block for what the opposition has to do.
Yeah, Dr. As we talk about the competitor's ego within the united opposition, one would say it is playing to the advantage of William Ruto coming back. If these competing egos are not dealt with sooner, perhaps then there would be one way or the other that the president takes advantage of it, because he's also a good student of politics. So is that in one way then working against the united opposition's agenda of like sending Ruto home?
Okay, the opposition's desire to unite, to me, is fairly genuine.
Yeah.
But what usually happens is not for fear that Ruto might come back. Like I mentioned, that every person doesn't want to carry the cross, that I'm the one who was responsible for disrupting, for betraying the wishes of the population. It could play in the hands of Ruto, but for two reasons that it does not totally do so. The first reason is that Ruto is not making any effort to rehabilitate his image in the public. The continued bribery at State House using public resources, the wastefulness of his pompous style of going to Dubai every 2 weeks at the expense of the Kenyan taxpayer, the lopsided appointment to public office, they are all eroding the possibility of him coming back. He's beating himself to a large extent, that's one. The second thing is, in 1997, Moi retained power after winning 94% of the popular vote. No, sorry, 34% of the popular vote. Because the opposition was divided. But Ruto cannot enjoy that luxury. Even if the opposition is divided and he gets 45% of the vote, he has to be subject to a one candidate against him in the next round. But that is a worst case scenario to me. The critical thing is how do we build momentum for a unified force against the status quo. There are 2-3 different routes to this, and that is partly what I think is causing some anxiety for opposition groups. One position is to say, let us have every person clean up his neighborhood to be the paramount chief of his tribe or his region. I have cleaned up mine, I have so many votes. You go and clean up yours, you'll have so many votes. Then let's come and sit down and say, now who commands the largest army? Let him be the one to lead us into this war. So that is one thinking. There's another thinking, that there has to be a unit of purpose. What are the core governance and policy issues that are driving the agenda of unity? What is the primary goal of next government for the first 100 days after the elections? Let us look at what you stand for and how many people rally around your call to be the basis of choosing who is to represent us. And there's a third course. Let us all continue mobilizing our supporters, and then we find a way of democratically having fair numbers of each person's representatives meet in a conclave, and then pick one of us to be the presidential candidate with swearing that we are going to put this. So these are realities, and when I say these things, you start imagining which particular presidential candidates I'm speaking about.
Yeah.
They exist in that space. We suffer them every day, but we live with this as a reality in this country. Right?
Do you think there's an element of confusion that's then introduced into the minds of Kenyans who are saying, okay, well, this is what we want, as you've established. However, the person who's going to deliver it, when everybody's saying it could be me or it is not me, but so understand where the confusion comes in.
I don't think there's a confusion. I don't think there's a confusion among the electorate. Even in the political leadership, a fairly high level of public intellectuals. There's concern that there's insufficient traction with policy. That not many people are competing for fundamental ideas on the content of the next government. We know what we're running away from, but we are not sufficiently building what we're running to. And how do we make that enhance the political sex appeal of policy?
Right.
I think is a public and national agenda that has always been dear to me. Unfortunately, only a section of the opposition is grappling with it, and attempts to make this the substance of discussion at retreats have not been very successful, to the best of my knowledge.
I mean, you mentioned something that is critical in the sense that one of the ways that the United Opposition is looking at it is fact that you go clean up your house, then come back with your number of votes, right? But whilst each and every single person is going back to their community, at the end of the day, you need Kenyans to believe you
I do
and
not
trust.
believe in the politics of ethnic balkanization. I mention it as one of the trends, not as something that I prefer.
Yes. So,
and significantly, I mention it as a problem, not as a solution.
Yes. So within then these mergers that are coming together, how does the agenda of Kenya then overshadow every other facet that does exist? Do you see that happening?
No, I hope it'll happen. I remain very, very optimistic. But the thing is that you are trying to package squares and rectangles and triangles and circles. So there's lots of spaces that don't fit in very well. But this is a challenge that I believe we'll be able to surmount.
Yeah.
And, in the early days of the second liberation, we had this advantage. There was a large body of civil society players, Citizens Coalition for Constitutional Change, Mwangaza, Maungano, Mageuzi, Forces. There were these independent sector and civil society organizations and progressive religious leaders who helped to prefect the process of position aligning around issues. Unfortunately, in Kenya today, that's not there. We do not have a rigorous, non-political civil organization or movement. Sound bites from social media are not sufficient. The dark spots on religious organizations because of the wicked alignments they took at the last election has reduced their voice and their credibility as a rallying point by and large. So it becomes a bit more challenging. That we have to look inside the political class to find what is a concrete agenda. I hope, and I've been getting some positive signals on this, that the younger players coming with the Linda Mwananchi are talking more positively about the importance of agenda than the legacy political leaders. And that is very helpful. That is something I'm very optimistic about. So I just look that if we could build the platform of governance's core values that you stand for, core commitments to restitution, core commitment to fighting corruption, regardless of your own personal background, a commitment to a renewal of economic opportunity in Kenya, particularly reducing government's overborrowing and overbearing hand in the national economy, and in increasing accessibility of affordable credit to entrepreneurs as the drivers of economic renewal. If we can just start building around these issues, they become a lot more exciting to me than to say that I have organized my region, you go home and organize your region. That's yesterday politics.
There's a lot more. What do you make of what we're hearing very loudly about what everybody's bringing to the table? Is it time to get rid of the table and say, just focus on what you talk about when you talk about policy and what it's really going to take to build a nation? I mean, we know where you sat in a global position, and you sat with the movers and shakers of the economic world who understood what it meant to take a country from 1 to 5, what it really needs. And when we hear people now having conversations around, well, we're going to take Kenya to 2060, or what you need to do is go bring your cousins from your community and let's now come. Does that matter? Who brings what to the table?
You know, players who mobilize at the grassroots in their communities for people to reject government are very important players in this process. But then there are other cross-cutting players to me, Linda Mwananchi does not represent an ethnic territory.
Okay.
It cuts across regions. It cuts across ethnic communities. They bring something else. So don't put everything into, don't put square pegs into round holes. Those who can help mobilize at the community level are very important, like what Gachagua has done in the mountain region and what Natembeya has done in the Luya region. These are important, but we cannot say that the opposition is going to be a composite body built on ethnic blocks mobilized by the paramount chiefs of those blocks. Can say those people have a role to play, but the glue of opposition should be what you stand for in the days after Ruto's government to redeem hope in Kenyans that it is possible to have a better Kenya than what we're going through now.
Yeah.
So do you agree with President William Ruto? It sounds like you're agreeing with him when he says that there must be an agenda beyond Ruto must go.
There is an agenda beyond Ruto must go, and Ruto does not have an agenda to talk of. I mean, I wish Ruto could be running on record, not on promise. He's been around as deputy president for 10 years, as president now nearly we're going into the 5th year. He cannot just talk about I'm good because the others don't have an agenda. You came with a flip-seat agenda and it collapsed from day one. You've just displayed the politics of greed, the politics of brutal violence, the politics of betrayal, selling black people in South Sudan because you're getting gold from those criminals called Rapid Deployment Forces, giving Kenyan passports to criminals who belong to jail and not on real earth, for the slaughter of black people in Darfur and Zagawa. I mean, he has bloodied hands. He should tell us what redeems him to deserve even to be a candidate. Not to lecture us that he's knowledgeable, he has a PhD. Of course we know. He paid someone to write a PhD for him. And I have asked him so many times to challenge me on this. He should not pretend to have credentials he has never earned.
And these things that you're saying, of course, you will corroborate.
Yes, I could corroborate. And we all know about the Meru guy who wrote Ruto's PhD thesis. I have done a PhD. Let Ruto show us the published works he has published as a student of a PhD. That's a requirement normally.
Yes, it is.
Not just what that gentleman whom then he promoted because they became president wrote. But critically, the destruction of this country under Ruto's government constitutes a challenge that the next government must deal with.
Yes.
We are all committed that will reverse the road to the decline of the country, the collapse of rule of law, the collapse of institutional government. Look at what has been happening recently. You saw Wetangula going to a public function and saying, I took you to the president and he gave every one of you appointment letters to go and appoint people. These days, people are given a number of slots to go and bring people to join the disciplined forces. You remember the other clown who was giving appointment letters for teachers at funerals? But this is the Ruto government. This is a total collapse of institutional government. Look at what they've been doing. You just saw World Bank sanctioning the face of e-citizen. And I was sitting with some respectable Kenyans one time when Ruto was angrily lashing at senior civil servants as to why their departments and ministries had not onboarded e-citizen. Every time Ruto does something like that passionately, it is out of personal material interest. And those poor souls were hesitant because they saw the theft, the fraud that e-citizen was. Now here we are today. You must start the process of committing that will deal with the criminality of e-citizen. All this wealth that they're flaunting, they will pay for it because they are stealing from us in the name of a digital government. The World Bank has flagged it.
Yes, they have.
Many civil servants in Kenya raised it. The Auditor General and the Control of Budget have raised it. We cannot pretend this away and say, no, this guy, in spite of all this, is good because the other side does not have a policy agenda. What is a better agenda than ending this destruction of Kenya by Ruto?
So,
then say, what is the best way to construct an alternative process on this? Some of us are sitting in the background with a lot of persons who are committed to this cause, preparing their positions about what should the next government be dealing with.
You mentioned
that's important.
You've mentioned that President William Ruto should be running based off his record.
Yes, what he has been
right,
doing.
not on promises,
Yeah.
because promises he did before he got elected.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Now, as we talk about that, then the agenda seemingly is to right the wrongs that have happened during Ruto's administration.
That is just part of it.
Part of it.
Yeah.
But then again, as even many move forward, you look at what the young people have been pushing: good governance, a rule of law. With that as well, one asks the question: then how should opposition approach this to make it easier for them to win?
All right, there are a number of things. Opposition should not only rally around things that make them win.
Yeah.
They should also rally around things that commit them to reviving the potential and realizing the dream that Kenya represents. So to me, just saying Ruto must go and showing all the evil Ruto has done can make you win an election. But I think as a nation, we want to revive belief in democracy. And the best way to do it is that even as we admonish Ruto, we prepare a comprehensive binding covenant between the opposition and the people of Kenya, which will be like the marking scheme against which they are assessed as government. So to me, these are two processes, not just for the purpose of winning an election,
Right.
but purposes of redeeming Kenya. This country, I've been around the world. I've had the privilege to visit 120 countries in my life. And there are not many places that are better than this place. There are not many places with a better enterprising citizens and patient citizens than Kenya. But we are betraying them because we do not unlock the potential that Kenyans have of building a fantastic country. So to me, Ruto has been a sad experience for this country. But can we now prepare to unlock the potential of Kenyans? Apart from blocking the excess of Ruto, can we commit to a radical agenda of realizing what is possible with Kenyans?
What is
so
possible?
That goes beyond what is possible.
Can we go into this a little bit?
Yes,
because a lot of
gladly
times
do that.
what we do is that we talk about a situation as foreboding as it may be, and that we don't give ourselves the latitude to then look into the possibility.
Right.
And so without looking into the possibility, then you are limited in your thinking by not then saying, this is actually what you can do.
Yeah, can I
So
say a bit
what's
about
possible?
what we can do?
Yeah.
You see, starting actually in the period of Uhuru Kenyatta, and now coming and becoming particularly bad under Ruto, there has been a transition in the idea of what is development. I was a minister in Kibaki's government, and we were very conscious that development in Kenya meant a number of critical things. Removing the hurdles for primary producers, informal sector, agricultural farmers, pastoralists, fishermen, and those removing the hurdles for them, for example, in the dairy sector, was represented by government at cabinet resolving and buying at inflated price KCC back and availing it as the purchaser of last resort and stabilizer of primary produce in the dairy sector. That you are focusing on a producer to be the engine of economic development. Similarly, government knew that you have to reduce domestic borrowing in order to make credit available and affordable to entrepreneurs. Government should not compete with business people in borrowing money from banks, because banks will give all the money to government and increase the cost of credit to the entrepreneur. 3, that you measure success in how the rising boards are pulling the others up. As people start feeling wealth, they trigger spending and more wealth among the citizens. Now, that is one model of development. And it's a model I'm very happy about. Development is driven by the people, the entrepreneurs, the primary producers, the workers, the investors. There's another thinking, that development is how much money government collects and then demonstrates that I have built this, I have built that. So you go and crowd out money in expensive external loans, you borrow excessively from banks and through the government treasury paper on the stock markets. You suck in all the money and you think you have developed because you have a large budget. Ballooning the public debt, increasing the cost of credit, starving entrepreneurs of money. And you say we have developed because we dualize the road from Rironi to Mau Summit. That mentality is sickening because that is not what grows Kenya. Infrastructure is an enabler of development. It is not development. If you build infrastructure and you're destroying enterprise, you are not growing the country. So you have to say, let us optimize the infrastructure we built. Let us rationalize what percentage of public resources we put into infrastructure. But most importantly, let us make entrepreneurs accede credit at affordable price by not borrowing too much on the domestic markets, and let them drive the economy. Let government be the prefect of good manners in a competition between enterprises. That dialogue does not exist under Ruto. And that's the dialogue I say, if there's something that we stood on the shoulders of Mike Kibaki about, this is what we have to bring back into the public mentality about what is development in this country.
I mean, Dr. It's also been looked as development not just being brick and mortar. It is what you've mentioned in terms of manufacturing being there, not crowding local debt, stopping over borrowing, and moving together, ensuring that everybody moves. But as well, there is development where the social aspect of Wananchi as well is key, where you look at education, free education for everybody else. As we talk about the Gen Z who are speaking loud as we speak at the moment, it's many are say they are the beneficiaries of free education under Mwai Kibaki. Now, when you talk about development such that each and every single person has gone through the system, you've handled your basics, your healthcare system is working, then at the end of the day, you have a healthy nation, you have an education population that then becomes your greatest resource in helping you develop and move the country forward. Would you reckon?
I don't think there's any major difference between what you're saying and what I'm saying. I just picked one thing about the thinking about what is development. But of course, the celebration of national development is the realization of social goals, like access to a quality education, access to affordable quality health care, and related social concerns, and of course social justice. These matters are important, but what I'm saying is that the economic underpinnings of a progressive and popular, successful social policy are returning to genuine net productivity and competitiveness of made in Kenya. We have been so busy loading every enterprise with corruption, with the demands of political bureaucracy. I've looked at it, it has pained me. How much they are just parasites who sit on government contracts and they're skimming away what will be the profit margins for enterprise. So much so that nothing grows. Unless you remove those monkeys from the backs of producers, you are not going to turn around this country. As it were, we already have certain structural problems that we have to deal with. We are struggling in a country where we have built a very, very expensive public political bureaucracy. From the MCS office and attendant employees there, to the county offices, to the governors pretending they're small presidents, to a president pretending he's a small god, and all the underlings that are feeding onto them and stripping the public of money through corruption. We cannot afford this bureaucracy. At the end of the day, we'll have a conversation as a country. Our experiment at devolution, we constructed a monster we cannot afford. That's just under normal circumstances. But we're adding to that burden the cost of corruption. I just saw it recently. I was telling people, informal studies were showing the cost of bribery for getting appointed in different counties. If you want to become a nurse employed by the county of Bungoma, you must pay a bribe of 200,000 shillings. The same job in the county of Vihiga is 100,000 shillings. And it is known. So every candidate knows that you have to find this money, go and sell some land and come, that you must stand a chance by giving the right person the 100,000. Do you see how we're destroying our country? Do you see the hopelessness of young persons coming into the labor market?
It doesn't seem so difficult to see from what you talk about now. I mean, the examples that can be given about what the case may be.
Yeah.
However, it would appear as though people are having totally different conversations.
Yeah, but
as though folks existed in a different stratosphere. Why would that be that I can see very clearly that there's a problem here?
Yeah.
I mean, we've not even started to scratch the surface when we look at education and the things that are going on.
Yeah.
It shocked me because I knew that it was bad, but I didn't realize how bad it was until I saw the numbers about capitation that even gets to schools. We're doing maybe 50%. We're doing at the most in the last 5 years, 75%.
And your president just promised that now you'll have free university education.
And how is that going to happen?
You cannot give free secondary education.
So how can these two competing conversations be taking place in the same country?
Yeah.
And if you say, if you mention it, you're told that, well, then, you're an enemy of
but you see,
progress.
I have to say this with respect. The Baraza Limited, the Standard Media Group, and its affiliate news outlets are carrying an inordinate burden. You remain the only genuine, independent, and significantly large media house in the country. And you have been very important in exposing some of the mendacity of those in government. It's very, very important. Like I said, it becomes even a more inordinate burden because you don't have the benefit of a vibrant civil society to backstop the work you do. But then some of us are pushing to the extent that we are able to influence, to mainstream this conversation. Yeah, we must get rid of Ruto. It's critical, a minimum necessity for this country to be revived, but it's not sufficient. Yeah, so now we have to dig into the content of what will be next government. There's a major debate going on. I remember I have sat with some of the principals from the opposition and we were discussing policy. There's some people like Martha Karua who very strongly believe that whatever it takes, this country can afford to immediately say, we must have free primary and secondary education at all costs. While we deal with the other stages, and others who are saying more gradually, let us first of all build a financial base that can sustain that at a quality level before we make it as a public. So there's that conversation. But what I would like to see is increasingly the anti-Ruto forces being subject to this conversation by the media, by society. Let us take positions and commit ourselves. What will we do to the thieves who are thrived because of stealing from us?
What should be done? I'm sorry, you have to jump in there and say,
if I had my way, I would reinvent the gallo.
Oh, come on.
I've been listening to President Ruto saying on the way to Singapore. If Ruto was in Singapore, he will be in jail for life. Singapore got where it was because major thieves in high office were sent to jail. So when I listen to thieves saying they want to take us to Singapore, I think they're taking themselves to the gallo, if it worked. You cannot have such abuse of office, such massive stealing from the taxpayer, and then you tell the same taxpayers you want to take them to Singapore. That is a major contradiction. I believe strongly that unless this country punishes criminals who steal from the public, criminal theft from the public will never come to an end. So we must reach a point where we say, the Rubicon, we're crossing the Rubicon. Past and present thieves have to pay for what they've done. Botswana is getting ahead of us because it punishes criminality. All these things about saying forgive the past is what has led us to where we are. This country must say, Ruto, this must come back to the taxpayer. All these experimentations that have ripped us off with all his partners, the gurus that you start a housing program because you're a supplier of materials. So it doesn't matter. You can belittle people who say it is stupid to go into a village and build a 16-story house. I've been to Funyula. I've seen in Trazoya. To just say affordable houses, construction of high-rise buildings, and you go and put in one village, And the population who could occupy that live about 20 kilometers away in another village where they grow their cassava and millet. And you think they will be walking to this high rise to sleep because affordable housing, and in the morning they walk 10 kilometers
to the farm.
to go to their farms? It's a statement about your naivety, not about the naivety of the population. But that's for another day.
Yeah.
I think fundamentally, reason must return to the creation of public policy.
Yeah.
Here, whims have been driving. Our president listens to a few people and he gets up and he becomes like a professor in the things they have said. And you get people like David Ndii confusing Ruto totally. And because they are called doctors, he believes they know what they're talking about. And he repeats, he mouths the stuff they're saying.
I mean, Daktari, a country cannot be run on promises. It's at the end of the day, boots on ground and delivery on the promises that you did make.
Yes, I agree.
Again, you look at, if you look at, we go back to Kibaki. He was as good as his team, allowed his team to work. Now, here we are in this government where many pundits are accusing the president of controlling each and every single facet of his government, despite the fact that even individuals who are in appointment are questionable. How does that affect delivery for any government if individuals are not worth the metal?
One of the main failings of the Ruto regime eventually will be the centralization of all executive power and ministerial power at State House. I've listened to people who have been in cabinet, or at least one of them I can mention because he has also come out publicly on this, Professor Ndungu, the former Minister for Treasury. Ruto is like the head of the orchestra, and the other persons have to play according to these instruments. They raise your voice, lower your voice. This is where we are going. Now let's have the tenor. Now the bass come up.
Harmony check.
And they are all responding like puppets before the puppet master. Unfortunately, that is one of the main flaws of a government of this type. I have always said that one of the best things about Mwai Kibaki is that he gave you a ministry and he gave you the responsibility. You are accountable to him and to cabinet, but he gave you space to work. So long as it's rationalized through collective decision, this is the direction government is going. That does not exist now. And it's just, it is a political culture that is going to hurt us very, very, very much. There's another thing, and this I partly blame on my friend Uhuru Kenyatta. Kibaki's government had a roadmap about where it was going. Vision 2030 was a guiding star of development planning for 5-year blocks. You are headed in that direction. And the prefect of this process was the National Economic and Social Council. So you have a non-partisan interdisciplinary council that hold government to account, that you justify what you are doing on the basis of the larger vision. The raison d'etre of government is your competence in executing building blocks towards 2030. The destruction of the National Economic and Social Council and the abandonment of the road towards 2030 has been one of the main failings of both the Uhuru and the Ruto governments. They are sailing without a compass. Now, when he comes out of the blue and asks my friend Anyang' Nyong'o and Michael Chege and the other guy from Singapore, please prepare us a way to go to Singapore, it's ridiculous. You have demonstrated you don't believe in being guided by a vision. You don't believe in collegial leadership that allows others to also think and participate in implementing things. You think you sit there and you manipulate the puppets to do what you want. And then you go to church and say, this God has granted us leadership and given us way to go forward. You give God a bad name.
When we look at all of this, it plays still very well within the nexus of other things. And even as you go to an election, this is probably the process that will allow a lot of the things that you mentioned come back into play.
They should be in play now.
They should be. And if they're not, in this case, you have an opportunity to do it.
Media, civil society players, academia should all hold opposition their feet to the fire on this. We want your commitment. We want your commitment to an alternative scenario and sense of what this country should be.
And
when
you have
I'm
to be
saying
talking
these
about
things
it.
here, I'm not just trying to defend or justify the opposition or criticize some of my colleagues in the opposition. I'm saying this national conversation has to grow.
Yeah.
Let us raise the political sex appeal of policy. Let us get the different players pledge their fidelity to a national renewal, redemption of hope among the hopeless, that there can be a better tomorrow, and you have an idea about how to make that tomorrow better.
One of the ingredients that plays around the same process is how safe people feel in a space whereby they can actually demonstrate some of the things that you mention. And the security situation at the time doesn't look very good. A man that I know that you had many conversations with was Kofi Annan. His foundation has told us that it's very possible. And interestingly enough, he played a major, if not the major role in brokering peace between the two sides in 2007, after the 2007 election violence. But the foundation which he started before his death has said that there's a possibility to 84% of Kenya going into a space where it's going to be violent again. So in the move to have all of these things which you've demonstrated come into play, there is still the need to secure the people of Kenya. But that seems to be going left at the moment.
I see where you're coming from. I share a sense of anxiety about the very frail security situation in our country. The number of problems.
Yeah.
Ruto has appointed an extremely reckless, irresponsible, and unknowledgeable idiot to be the minister responsible for security. He threatens security by his very, very primitive utterances, instead of reassuring people that the security of the country is in able hands.
You say that with
Murkomen
confidence.
does not deserve to be a minister of anything, least of all to be the minister responsible for security in this country. He's been an unmitigated failure, and I think he's the worst security minister, even if you include the drunken guy called Oletipis.
Dr. Is that tone set from the top? Why do I say that? Because remember, immediately during the Gen Z protest, the president came out calling demonstrators children, and we must deal with our children. You know, there is also the statements that were, the president said, shoot on the leg.
Yeah.
Another member of parliament said, shoot to kill.
Yes.
The cabinet secretary, shoot, I will represent you in court. When the tone is set at the top.
People come with one finger, cut the finger.
Yes.
Like Chancellor Letich said in the dark 90s.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't go to the protest if you're told goons will be there. Yeah. When that tone is what we see, what does that portend? What does that represent, especially when you're getting towards the election, which is charged?
It shows you, first of all, those drunk with the delusions of power expose their naivety, their emptiness when given a chance. You don't listen too much to Murkomen to know that absolutely he gives scholarship a bad name. He has fairly good schools, but you listen to the kind of idiots that you have who can go through school and remain an omitted. And that's what I think Murkomen is. There are other Anja provocateur like Duale, who sees every opportunity as an opportunity to add to the millions of Somali wealth, and thinks that you please your boss by throwing insults at the Kikuyu community. But of course, they are showing you something. When Ruto's closest people come out blatantly with these stupid things, you know he listens to them talk this. These are things he talks with them. So they cannot just walk out and say such outrageous things, which will normally lose you the job as a minister, unless they know that their boss is comfortable with what they're saying. These are things he says when he's with them. That's why they come out and say this. When a person entrusts his engagement with the public to persons like Farouk and Sudi, what is the value of the education Ruto went through school for? If he appreciates that these are the kind of persons who represent the face, the image of his government to the Kenyan people, how can these ones help us to reassure us that the goonism that they unleashed in the elections in Malava, the goonism that were unleashed so blatantly in Homa Bay recently, is not a test run for evil things they want to do in this country? Sometimes some of us think we're pushing the country to the brink. But Kenyans have a way of retreating from the brink. And our only hope is that we'll retreat from these dark clouds that are being deliberately manufactured to retain power at any cost.
In a couple of days, Kenya celebrates its 16th year of a new constitution. I don't know if it's new after 16, but it's been 16 years. It has not been completely entrenched or followed through. A couple of schedules still unmet yet. But the rule of law and constitutionalism is something that seems to have been battled with by a lot of people. Is this election in 2027 an opportunity to bring back the tenets of the Constitution, even if in a couple of days you celebrate the promulgation of it?
All right. Part of the challenge that we're facing today is that the person who consistently and persistently opposed the promulgation of a new constitutional order has been given the responsibility to husband that constitution. There's no time in the history of Ruto as an adult where he ever stood for the right causes on the constitutional debate. He was always part of the reverse gear. So we succeeded in spite of Ruto. And then he becomes the beneficiary of that new constitution. We cannot look to him to implement constitutionalism and the rule of law. And that's part of the crisis of this country. And I like the way some people, basically the whole opposition, have been insisting that we need a government that at the core fundamentally believes in the rule of law and return to constitutionalism. And I think as we commemorate 16 years of the new constitutional order, we want to start looking into the members of the political class that rededicate themselves to the values, the ethos of the constitutional order, and particularly the governance agenda of Chapter 6 of that constitution.
Yeah.
This is very, very important, I think, as we go on. Of course, after the election, when outside the heat of contested politics, we will need at an appropriate time to revisit the structure and content of our constitution. As I mentioned earlier, we cannot afford this pyramid of political offices that we constructed in the new constitution order. And similarly, we have to find a way of entrenching more clearly the organs and positions of public office. The experiment with the Senate has not been a success. The experiment with women representatives has not represented women. These are some of the gray areas we must clean up again as a nation. But that national conversation can only be executed under the guidance of a team of leaders that believe in the rule of law and constitutionalism.
Doctor, as we come to the top of the hour, one asks the question then, anyone who is in government leads the people. The people must believe you, the people must trust you, and the people will tell you whether you're working or not. Because if you're not listening to the people, you have no business being in that office. Public participation.
I'm sure that Ruto can confirm what you just said. Yeah.
So when you don't listen to the people, who exactly are you ruling? One asks the question.
No, there are some people get into office and they think they are now so powerful. They insulate themselves against the people. They talk at the people. They are not responsive or accountable to those people. They make themselves so clever that if you disagree with them, it just means you're stupid. We have seen such village bumpkins pretending that they are knowledgeable. They come, but they will pass. Kenya will be here. There's a lot of intelligent Kenyans who are seeing through all this. But I think is that the alternative groups must start putting content on the front banner of preparations for the next election and the next government. We'll pray to God to give us the strength, the courage, but also the brain to do what is right.
A good place to end, Dr. Mukhisa Kituyi. Thank you for joining us this morning. Let's keep these conversations front and center. You speak in our language. Asante Sana, I look forward to the next one with you. Stuff to remember.
Thank you very much.
Asante Sana, it's 9 a.m.
The latest news. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.